Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am Bricker Boom, and it is time for Tier List Tuesday. Now, the last tier list I did went pretty well. That was Pokemon based, so I figured let's go ahead and return to that. Except this time, we're going to be taking a look at the gym leaders of Pokemon. Now, full disclosure here, I couldn't make it just based on gens 1 through 3 that I'm the most comfortable with, so like, I think this is every single gen. I've never played 6, and I did not like 7, so I can confidently review 1 through 3. 4 is a little bit sketchy, 5 is okay, but after that I'm done. So like, I'm just gonna review as much as I can. This is partly based off of Nuzlocke experience, and then just partly who I like, and who I think is a challenge. So S tier means that they're a pretty good challenge. They have a pretty well-balanced team in regards to strength. A, B, C, and then D is just, it is an absolute cakewalk. And more often than not, if you do have the right type, gym leaders can be a cakewalk. However, let's go ahead and hop into it. So starting off with Brock, this looks like these look like the Heart Gold Soul Silver sprites. I'm going to go solely off of the Kanto team when you first start playing. And honestly, it depends on what starter you get. If you have Charmander, you're going to have a rough time. If you have Bulbasaur or Squirtle, it's going to be pretty easy. Now, if I remember right, you can find in Pokemon Yellow a Mankey, so you do have a fighting type that way. Overall, I'm going to put him into B tier because more often than not, this was our first experience with a gym leader. We had no idea really about Pokemon typings or anything like that. So, I'm going to go ahead and give him an A tier. Mostly because his Fire Red Leaf Green team is pretty good. I'm going to go off the updated gens rather than the beginning gens because they've had a lot of updates since then, and more often than not, a lot of gym leaders, their first debut is kind of bad. Misty. I'm gonna give her an A tier, mostly because, that Starmie with Water Pulse, the fact that it confuses so often as it does, it's a hard-hitting move, it has Recover, Misty also has potions to heal up her Pokemon. It's actually a pretty decent battle. Next up is Lieutenant Surge, and Lieutenant Surge is kind of a C tier, mostly because in Cerulean City, you get the TM for Dig, so you have that, and then if you're extra desperate, you can just go to Diglett Cave right outside his gym, and you're good. Erica. Sorry, Erica. But Erica's a D tier. Grass Pokemon in most games in general are very, very weak. You've got, if you chose Charmander, he's a Charmeleon, potentially Charizard by now. If you chose Squirtle, you have a casino that has access to teaching him Ice Beam just outside. You also, in the route before this, you can find different fire types. I believe either a Growlithe or Ponyta, depending on what version you're playing. There's flying types literally everywhere. Most of them can learn Wing Attack. If you can... actually, you don't even need to get past the Snorlax to learn Fly. You can typically stomp over Erica first try. Koga. Honestly, I'm gonna give Koga S tier simply due to Toxic. He has pretty bulky Pokemon, which definitely plays in his favor with the Toxic stall game. And not only that, but the thing is, Abra are very hard to find. Drowsy to Hypno is easy enough to find, but for the most part, he's actually pretty solid. His Pokemon's defense is tanky, their special is pretty alright. He's a difficult gym leader, in my opinion. Janine, on the other hand, Janine is a D tier, and I feel bad, but Janine is just not good. And the problem with the Kanto gym leaders in the Johto game, in all honesty, is that they are all below the Elite Four levels. I understand why they did it, because of the whole meta of gym leaders being weaker than the Elite Four, but she is really bad. Her team isn't super great, and you can easily trounce her by the time you get to her. Sabrina! Sabrina is and always will be an S tier. Now, the reason being is because unless your Pokemon outspeed have a weakness or resistance to her moves, you can easily get obliterated by her Alakazam. She has ended Nuzlocke before, solo runs. It has taken me multiple times to get past her. If you hit her Pokemon with a strong physical attack, you're probably going to win. But the thing is, you have to outspeed them first, and that is easier said than done some days. Blaine. Now, I would give him an S tier just for the better pack of burn heal line alone. However, I'm going to give him a D tier. And the reason being is because we literally just crossed a route to get to him that is filled with water-type Pokemon. That makes it so he is kind of a joke if you train them up. His Arcanine is very fast and very scary, but for the most part, he is easily taken down. Giovanni. Giovanni is an A tier simply just due to his Kangaskhan. His Kangaskhan can absolutely destroy you. He's a lot of his Pokemon are fairly weak. Dugtrio's okay. It's very fast, but it has the lowest HP pool in, I believe, most Pokemon games. I know for sure it had the lowest HP pool of Gen 1. So I would give him an A tier. Blue. Blue's an S tier. From his Pokemon in Kanto to his Pokemon in Johto, he is a very solid gym leader and champion. And I mean, he should be, because again, he made it to champion. His team is annoying. His team is powerful. He's 9 times out of 10 if you're in a Nuzlocke, he's going to murder probably at least one of your Pokemon, because he doesn't do the whole, I specialize in a type. No, he specializes in making your day an absolute nightmare, and I am here for it. Falkner. C tier. Simply just due to the fact that if you pick Chikorita, you're going to have a rough time. Cyndaquil and Totodile shouldn't have too bad of a time. The reason that he's as difficult as he is because if you don't know to go to the route past the town and down where you can catch a Mareep, you're probably going to have a little bit of a rough time. Now, if you find Mareep, that's why he's in C tier, because you can easily just destroy his bird Pokemon. Bugsy. Now, Bugsy is a bit of a menace here with the fact that he has a Scyther. The Scyther knows U-turn, and I'm having flashbacks to some of the solo challenges I've done where U-turn is enough to absolutely obliterate my Pokemon. But overall, by then, if you're playing with a full team, you should be able to get a halfway decent flying type, or if you picked Cyndaquil, you should have a Quilava by now, and should be able to take him out without too much of an issue. Whitney. I hate to say it, but Whitney is A tier. That Miltank combo, especially in Heart Gold, Soul Silver. So this is what Miltank's move set looks like. Attract, which is an immediate annoyance, because it immediately means you might attack, you might not. Milk Drink, which recovers her HP, and Whitney also has potions. Stomp, which has a chance to flinch, and then finally Rollout, which gains more power every single move. She is a nightmare of a gym leader. Now, what I would recommend if you are going against Whitney, is there's a route in Goldenrod to the north where you have a chance to find a Machop. Take advantage of that because the likelihood is you're gonna need it. Morty. Morty's actually kind of weak overall, if I'm being honest. I know I did wipe to him once in the first gold Nuzlocke I attempted. That is mostly just due to Curse being a nightmare and some bad luck. But honestly, by the time that you get to Morty, you should have, if you're not playing a Nuzlocke, a normal type with at least Bite, most likely a Rattata, probably Eradicate by this time, depending on, I can't remember what level it evolves. But his ghost Pokemon can't hit you if you have a normal type, so you can go in there with a normal type that can hit them, you can't be touched, and then you just destroy his entire gym. It's amazing. Chuck. Chuck only has 2 Pokemon, a Primeape and a Poliwhirl, and the thing is, more often than not, he keeps trying to use Focus Punch. I'm giving him C tier simply because, or not Poliwhirl, but Poliwrath, simply because it is a dual fighting water type, so it does give him a little bit of diversity, but if he's just focusing on Focus Punch, then this battle is a walk in the park. Jasmine. Jasmine uses the Steel type. Now, I actually really like Jasmine as a gym leader, but again, if you have a Fire type, you can take it down. If you have a strong ground move, you can take down the Steelix, and I want to say if you, by now, you would probably have a Typhlosion if you took that, which will mean that you can immediately destroy it, and you should have been able to get a decent Fire type otherwise by the time you get here. Overall, solid gym leader. Iron Tail will immediately wreck you, but you shouldn't have too much trouble. Price. Price is more C tier, simply just due to the fact that he's kind of easy. If you have a solid fighting Pokemon that can stand at least more than 1 hit from Blizzard, you should be alright. He does have a Mamoswine, or Piloswine that he brings in that I believe has Storm Warning or whatever it is that makes it so it hails, or he'll at least set it up to make Blizzard 100% accurate, but most of his team, in all honesty, is kind of a joke. Oh, his Dugong with Sleep Talk actually is a bit of a pain because it knows Rest. I'm going to move him up into B tier because of it, because oh my god, that Dugong... Ugh. Okay. Claire. I'm going to go ahead and give her A tier. Dragon types are very hard to counter to begin with. If you picked Totodile and you kept Ice Fang, you probably have a Feraligatr with a pretty decent ice move. But for the most part, Claire's actually pretty tough, especially when she switches over to Kingdra. Kingdra is kind of a beast. Next up is Roxanne, and Roxanne has either 1 or 2 Geodudes and a Pokemon Nosepass. She isn't too bad, depending on your starter. She could definitely be a challenge, but for the most part, kind of the same as Brock, if we're being completely honest. I want to say his name is Brawly. He is a fighting type. He can be kind of rough, because at this point, you probably don't have any Pokemon that would be super effective against him, except for bird types. A lot of bird types also have a part normal type, so his moves are at least going to be doing neutral damage. I would say also C tier, or B tier. Sorry, I'm getting my tiers mixed up. He's pretty decent. Watson. S tier. Watson is very difficult. He will paralyze you. He will shock you. He has a Pokemon with Intimidate. He is actually a very solid gym leader. Now, the thing is, if you picked Mudkip, by now it should be in its 2nd, maybe even 3rd stage, depending on how much you power leveled this thing. But once it evolves from Mudkip, it gets a dual water ground type, so his electric moves can't hurt you. So, if you have that Pokemon, he is a walk in the park. Otherwise, you're probably going to have to attempt this once or twice. Flannery. Now, I had a big old heckin' crush on Flannery as a kid. However, her Pokemon team isn't bad. It's not great either. The only problem, in all honesty, is the fact that she has Slugma. Slugma is a very weak Pokemon, kind of useless overall. But she's still pretty solid. The fact that she has Overheat that will absolutely decimate a Pokemon if she manages to get it to proc is a bit of a problem, but as long as you have a strong water type, you should be alright. Norman! I'm also going to put Norman into A tier. I'm not really putting them in a tier based off of... Like, I'm not adjusting them in the tier, I'm just putting them in the tier because once you get into the tier, it doesn't really matter. Norman is a very solid gym leader. His slacking or slaking, depending on what you want to call it, can be an absolute nightmare. However, once you know the whole Truant trick, he's kind of a easy gym leader. And you should also have a fighting type by then. Just make sure you don't get hit with counter or facade too much, and you should be fine. Winona! I'm gonna give her an A tier as well, just because her Altaria can be kind of scary. Again, it's hard to be able to deal with dragon types, and this Pokemon will Dragon Dance for setup, and then begin earthquaking your entire team. Winona, the first time especially, is very scary. Once you know what's going on, not too bad. Tate and Liza, C tier. I'm almost tempted to put them into D tier, simply just due to the fact that it's a double battle. If you know how to double battle well enough, you can play off your Pokemon's strengths and weaknesses quite well, and as long as you avoid earth attacks, you're fine. I can't remember his name. I think the well-dressed looking one is Juan. I don't remember his name, but he is water type, I believe? By the time you face him, water type is kind of obsolete, and I mean that in the best possible way. It's just unfortunate. If he were earlier in the series with a slightly different team, it would probably be alright, but if I remember correctly, he's kind of a cakewalk, and the same can be said about Juan. I honestly hated the fact that, if I remember right, the first one here, he was the champion that you had to face at the end of the game, and because he was a champion with a mostly mono-type team, it was pretty easy. Alright, next up is... I want to say her name is Gardenia? We're starting to get into the gyms where I don't really know. Like, I'm gonna cover these 8 gym leaders, and then after this, I'm done. Because I only know a couple of these guys, but I've only played the 5th gen twice, so I don't know the teams too well. But Gardenia, grass type, pretty alright. I would say B tier. Again, it all depends on the starter that you pick, but by the time you get to her, you should have at least a little bit of variety within your team to be able to take her on without too much of a problem. Rorik, I think his name is? That seems right. Rock type, I mean, we've played this song and dance before. He's the first gym leader. You can typically get a rock Pokemon outside one of the caves before you face him. Decent enough, though. I would say probably B tier, though. He's okay. I cannot remember her name. I remember the setup of the gym pretty well. I would say also B tier. I don't think her team is very difficult, just in regards to the fighting type, you can usually find a pretty decent counter for. If I remember correctly, she does have a Metachan that's alright, but for the most part, easy enough to take down. Crasher Wake, I'm gonna say A tier, mostly because of his Floatzel knowing Ice Fang. When I did my Gible solo run, he ended so many attempts, it's not even funny. Obviously, I'm not basing it totally off that, but that definitely does influence the decision again. Ice Fang is a nasty move. I cannot remember her name. I just remember that she uses ghost types. Honestly, C tier. Her gym is pretty easy overall. As long as you have a halfway decent counter to the ghost types, you shouldn't have much of an issue taking her down. Again, normal type, bite, good to go. Let's see. Rorik's father. He uses ground types. Honestly, especially with how late in the game it is, you've got water Pokemon, you've got grass Pokemon. You should be able to take him down without any type of issue whatsoever. I cannot remember who she is in any way, shape, or form. I don't remember who she is. I don't remember her typing. So we're just gonna go ahead and go with Naruto's dad, electric type. Solid enough, but honestly, B tier. But that's all we're going to go ahead and put into a tier list today. If I start playing the other generations and can remember to put these guys into a tier list, I most certainly will. But as of right now, that's just kind of the start of the list. I hope you've been enjoying Tier List Tuesday. If you haven't yet, make sure to check out my solo Pokemon runs. Also on the channel, they're in a playlist, super easy to find. And as always, if you like the video, even if you didn't like the video, think about hitting that like and subscribe button because it really does help me out. And until next time, everybody,